And I'll start with a meditation, which always gives people time to drop in anyway. Is that okay? Off we go then. Well, one of us is on the road. I'm sure everybody else is has some kind of busyness going on, either coming from or going to on this Tuesday. It's my Tuesday evening. It's very cold here. There's a fog, so not pleasant. So just think about how nice it is, your environment supporting you, comfortable, feel safe. And for you at the beginning of the day, just able to set your mind into a positive mode. So take some deep breaths and just feel how that energizes you. So this is our preparation, really, the practice of mindfully observing the breath and allowing the spaciousness of the mind an opportunity to manifest for you clarity. Any thoughts that have been dominating you, just let them go. And set a motivation for our together. Be your own therapist, considering how we might utilize the wisdom of the Dharma to sort ourselves out. Therapy is about self-knowledge, self-acceptance, self-compassion. And sometimes we use the sword of wisdom to cut through some of the delusions we're hanging on to about ourselves. And sometimes we use the warmth of compassion to really be kind and love ourselves. So there's your intention. All that encapsulated in be your own therapist. So just a gentle meditation following the breath. Preparing our minds. It's like tilling the soil, getting rid of the stones and lumps, obstacles to openness, so that whatever we hear plants seeds that will grow and flourish in our lives. And whilst we prepare for tonight's topic, the law of cause and effect, karma, just clarify what that means for yourself and how it has changed you. How it has been therapeutic. Little bit of analysis here. Be very clear. And do you feel that there are any obstacles to your understanding of karma? Is there anything in your life that you struggle with, where you feel, despite all your knowledge, that you're still pointing the finger? And what do you think it is that gets in the way? Why do you keep coming back to this and feeling that was unfair? Gently come back to your breath and feel as if you are prepared now to be open to some ideas and to discuss, ask questions, and leave the session with a little bit more clarity, a little bit more growth. And end the session when you're ready. Oh, Silla, are you the host? Ah, okay. All is clear.
I'm not, but I will be for you today. All right?
Okay.
And hopefully
That's fine. I haven't met you, have I? Is it Zella or Zila?
Shayla.
Zila. Lovely name. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So we're going to talk about karma. So, this is a wonderful subject. It's kind of so complex, really. And it's one of those subjects that when I'm teaching, it's really tricky to bring into a secular audience, yeah? Because karma can have very significant responses. A lot of people who you train, who aren't Buddhist, have very mixed up ideas about what karma is. And other people just can't stand the word. They think it's a terrible kind of explanation. So first of all, I want to kind of identify those really, because I think they're quite important and they might also play into our own opinions. So if you think of people who are mixed up, the general mix-ups I get, and I hope you can contribute to this later, is that people think it's kind of instant. So they cannot understand that people get away with stuff, okay? Because it must be their karma to experience a bad result. Yeah? And they cannot understand that even after practicing 40 years the Dharma, doing retreats, being a good person, doing lots of purification, bad stuff still happens to them. It's like, what? I'm a good person. Why is this happening to me? Yeah. So when we engage with the practice of the Dharma, we can immediately experience that there is no such thing as instant karma. There isn't. And if there is kind of, you say something rotten and then you go out and a brick falls on your head, you might say, oh, that's instant karma. But actually, that was a different cause. And the causes and conditions have just come about for that to happen to you. It can be useful because you can use it as a way of going, well, there you go. What you've said in there is going to have a result just like that. Not necessarily a brick falling on your head, but you understand what I'm saying, yeah? So this concept of instant karma misleads people into thinking it's a load of rubbish because they can't see it happening in their life. It doesn't make sense in their life. And so this is why it's so difficult, because if you're teaching people who have no feeling and understanding of rebirth, then they're not going to get karma. So it goes together, and it's the kind of fundamentals, if you like, of Buddhism. So in terms of secular training, you can teach Buddhist psychology. It's fantastic. You can teach it to anybody, and it works. Be your own therapist. You can do it till the cows come home. It all makes perfect sense. But once you take the concept of karma and the nature of the mind being beginningless and endless, and therefore you're taking in rebirth, then there's a huge obstacle. There's a huge obstacle for people. So the best way of understanding karma for these people is to think of the law of cause and effect. So if you give it that name, it's a little bit more rational. It doesn't sound Eastern and mystic, and every pop star's been using it, since the 60s. It just the law of cause and effect. And then you start applying that to everything that you see in nature. It's so easy. It's so easy. And look at us now with climate change. Any scientist will agree that the causes go way back and it was caused by humans. yeah, and all the scientific reasons why. So the law of cause and effect, everything that is created has a previous cause, has a previous cause. And so then you start to be able to take in the concept of beginningless and endless mind, because the whole, what came first, the chicken or the egg, you know, that works with karma, with the law of cause and effect. Was there an original chicken dropped on earth? Was there an original egg? Yeah. Well, it's kind of weird, isn't it? I mean, when I think like that, I think, how can anybody believe that? But people do think that there's an original chicken. Well, they must do, or they think there's an original egg. But actually, the law of cause and effect is perfect when applied to a simple idea like that. And anything we look at in nature, always a previous cause. Causes and conditions come together, there will be an effect. You plant a seed, you add sunshine and water, it will grow. You plant a seed, you put it in the shed where it's dark and there's no sunshine and you don't water it, it will remain dormant. It will not grow. You take that seed out, that same seed, you nourish it, it grows. Yeah. So that's one of the obstacles that I find when I'm teaching karma to people, when anybody does who's teaching karma. And the other one, I can't even remember what I said now, remind me, but I think it was to do with when people, so I've done the whole, they can't take in rebirth. And the other obstacle to karma, the instant karma. And the other obstacle is expecting karma to apply in this life, and it's unfair and things become unfair. Is that what I said? Can anybody remember exactly? Does that work? Okay, I think that's what I was saying. I should have made a note of it. I go off and then I come back and go, where was I? Okay. So to clarify, instant karma and also karma in one life, they can't see it. People cannot see. It's not fair. And I'll use some very difficult examples. People think it's cruel. They think it's cruel. How can you say that that person's child died because of their karma? That's a huge misunderstanding. Yeah? And that's a real problem, because unless you have a really broad view of beginningless mind, rebirth, and therefore karma working, to try and explain to somebody who says, are you telling me that my daughter, son deserved that? It's really difficult to explain. We have, it's an old example now. Well, that's because I'm old. But we had a football manager called Glenn Hoddle, and he got into Buddhism. And then something happened, one of the players died or whatever, and he said, well, it was his karma. The papers went mad, Glenn Hoddle off his trolley, saying things like this. What a stupid thing to say, yeah? So mainstream people do not, secular understanding does not get what we mean by that. And it needs a real appreciation for the fact that it's not the daughter. That child may have been a little angel, only doing wonderful things, very sweet, not even having a long life, just suffering. But some previous imprints in some previous body, in a previous life, which could have been eons ago, causes and conditions coming together. But this is when karma is really difficult. And this is what we struggle with when we're going, well, you know, I've been a practitioner, I've done this, I've done that, and I'm still getting bad things happen to me. Please, you know, anything, that brick could fall on your head. You could have been in retreat 3 years and not had a bad thought. You walk out of the retreat, the cave or hut or whatever, a brick can still fall on your head. It's got nothing to do with that 3 years. Yeah. Nothing to do. We do not know. So yes, I've clarified that for myself now. That was important. That is what is difficult. That is what is difficult for people to understand. That it's not us that is continuing. It's something bad isn't happening to Ondy because Ondy's been a bad person. It's an imprint on my consciousness that has now created the causes and conditions for the effect to happen. So we really need to get to grips with that. Now, the reason I'm on this week is because last week we were looking at equanimity, and we were considering how you know, friends, enemies, strangers, there's all interdependence, and we all want happiness, but we're struggling with bias and prejudice. And what we need to do is to work and equalize these beings in our lives. So the reason I'm coming on to karma this week is because if we truly understand karma, we'll understand that that person we don't get on with, we have a karmic connection with the problem. May not be with them, but with the issue that is coming from our connection with that person now. So for example, say way back in previous lifetimes, who knows when, maybe as an animal, maybe as a human being, but we were, we had strong attachments and were very sexually active and didn't care who we went with. I'm being polite here, okay? We just, you know, went for whoever. And we didn't care whether they were married or whether it was harming them. Maybe we raped. Maybe we raped. When I say we, previous, so not us, okay? So then that imprint is on our minds. So suddenly we're in a life and the causes and conditions, for reasons which we don't know, come together, and then we're raped, or our husband cheats on us, simple, you know, rape extreme, or we manifest an illness and we are very ill as a young person, the example I gave before. Nothing to do with now. We're completing the karma that was created and imprinted on our consciousness all that time ago. So take great care when you try to explain karma to people. Don't be like Paul Glenn Hoddle, who lost his job and went into oblivion. Yeah, because it sounded cruel. And they thought he was a crackpot. So, and I don't even recognize when I read or see things on media now, social media, any particular difference in the way people understand karma. They still think it's instant, and they're still like, well, you know, what you mean? Because I got this illness because I'm not a bad person. They cannot, blinkers, one life blinkers. Even if they think, yeah, I might have been reborn, they still think it was them in a previous life. The nature of consciousness, everything about us when we die, our personality, our character, our bodies go. The label goes. When we are reborn, imprints on consciousness, new body, new label, new tendencies, new habits. So that's kind of the tough aspect of Buddhism. It's not a nice idea if we go on forever. We, Ondy, Kim, Barbara, Makazela, Danny, at death, gone. Yeah, so I think that's kind of profound, and that's how we need to get our heads around karma, because coming to our own lives now and thinking therapy for ourselves, how many times do you stop, and I'm not pointing my finger because I do this myself, I think, bloody hell, that person's getting away with it. Or why are they always doing this? We just point the finger all the time. And then we have to remind ourselves, okay, Ondy, have you forgotten something? This is your karma. Yeah. You must have at some point, but keep your compassion. It's not Ondy. At some point, way back, created that karma. So one of the things we have to do if we're therapeutically addressing what's going on in our heads is to remember karma. And then if we have this whole idea that we're trying to practice equanimity, remember that it's all impermanent. So the friend is a friend in this lifetime. Hasn't always been a friend, won't always be a friend. That the enemy, it's the karmic creation, a suitable object for your aversion in this lifetime. Yeah, in this lifetime. And that we can change that. So equanimity helps us equalize and therefore have less aversion to when we see people, however horrendous, whether they be despots, dictators, crazy politicians, ex-husbands, kids, daughters-in-law, whoever it is that's giving you a hard time, or whoever it is, if we can equalize them by practicing equanimity and also remembering karma. So one of the other ways of utilizing karma in our therapy is, as well as reminding ourselves, is to identify that when we do something that isn't it isn't right, isn't going to create a good effect. If we lie to somebody, or if we shout at them, or if we want them to die and burn in hell forever, or whatever it is we want for them, when we say or think these things or make these actions that are divisive, that when we do that and then afterwards we go, oh, damn, that wasn't very good, that we're able to purify as much as possible. So in Buddhism, there's lots of purification practices. And remember, the sooner you can kind of go, oh my God, what did I do there? What did I say there? That you have regret, that you say some mantras, that you try to make up for it, the better. Because it will be on the consciousness, you will have done it, and there will be some effect. You can't get totally rid of your karma. You can minimize it, and you can purify it a great deal, but it is there. So manage it and do as much as you can. And you will know about the karmic connections that are real obstacles in your life, you know, the relative you don't get on with, and they just won't leave your mind. They keep coming back. They're always a problem in your head. Or one of the Buddhist teachings is that, you know, the suffering karma of having killed somebody is the memory of it. It's the memory, yeah. Because, you know, you put something in your head, you know, if you killed a bunch of flies and you were a Buddhist because they were driving you nuts and you couldn't get rid of them, because you're a Buddhist, that memory of killing the flies will be driving you crazy, because you know it, you know what you've done. So in one way, there's some good karma there because you are aware. And in another way, you've killed, which, because you're aware, is really bad. So therefore, you really need to purify. But you know as well that you carry that on your consciousness, because whenever you see a fly, you think, oh, I killed those flies. Yeah. It's the memory that is the suffering, as much as whatever causes and conditions come together and karmically ripen. Yeah, karmically ripen. So purification is very important, and also remembering that when you have a karmic connection with somebody, consider your attachment and aversion. Now, one of the things that happens in romantic relationships is, you know, if the attraction is really great, it's like a magnet, but you know they've got another partner and a child or whatever, yeah? And then you use the phrase, well, we have a strong karmic connection. Watch out for that, because you're definitely not ending the karmic connection. You're making it stronger. You're creating a mess of suffering. And again, the result can only be more suffering. Well, you hear this with people. Oh, we had such a strong karmic connection, as an excuse, if you like, for not being. And maybe it is like that, but I know lamas tell people, you know, you really should try not to go with that person. Because what we're trying to do in Buddhism is end karmic connections. Ultimately, we want good karma, wholesome karmic connections with lamas, and all our karmic connections with beings that create suffering. We're trying to cut them. So that's something to consider. So my strong karmic connection with this person, is it healthy? Is it wholesome? Is it causing anybody suffering? And that's really tough if you fall in love. That's really tough. Okay. Well, I think I've talked enough and probably raised enough issues there. So you can put your little speakers on and fire away. Is there anything you'd like to add or ask? Kim?
Yes, Ondy, I just want to clarify. Am I correct when you said you can minimize karma, but it cannot be removed?
That's what I understand, yes.
How does that relate to the Vajrasattva purification process when we resolve, or the remedy is that we work on removing
Yes.
obscurations and previous imprints
Yes,
to remove previous imprints.
that's fine, and you will. But unless you have emptiness, you won't destroy them completely.
So emptiness is the
Mm.
tie-in.
Does that make sense?
It does. So, I mean, again, the purification is beneficial,
Oh, definitely.
but to a degree.
Well, to a big degree, because I mean, the imprints from doing a Vajrasattva purification retreat or saying those mantras and checking at the end of the day and reducing the karma is immense. Having
Yes.
regret because you're becoming aware, you're kind of thinking about what you've done as well.
Mm-hmm.
You're having that regret, and then when you apply the remedy, you're really wanting to purify your mind. So it's incredibly good karma.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Okay.
but there will still be the residue, because even when someone realizes emptiness, they have residual karma.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
This is what I understand. Yeah, yeah.
And just another quick one. I mean,
Yeah.
in previous lives, we've all killed. We've
Yes,
probably all raped.
yes.
Where does the memory come into play? I mean, I have no memory of
No,
any past lives.
no.
And so what triggers it?
What triggers the memory, or what triggers the karma?
The memory.
What triggers the memory? Well, when I was talking about, killing a fly,
Yeah,
you've got that would be in this life, so for sure you're going to remember it every time you see a fly.
right. But
And you're motivated not to kill flies, but you had to do it. Sometimes it happens.
right.
It can be a very practical reason. You have to get rid of rats or something or other, and you have to do it. But you have an awareness that they're a sentient being, and they could have been your mother.
Right.
then your motives and your action and your wish for them to have a precious human rebirth is going to come into play, but you've still got the memory of having done it, and there will still be some karma, but you're not but that action is much less strong karma than somebody who doesn't give a monkeys about a fly. Just it's in their way, just destroy it, move on. They have no memory of it, but they've done it with a mind that is full of hatred or attachment to their own pleasure or whatever their mind is filled with, and that stays on the consciousness and will result in the karma in a future lifetime. Does that answer your question?
Right. So that is how we explain, like, if we did rape, kill in 20 previous lives, the residual is there.
Yes.
But not a direct memory.
No, there'll be no direct memory. No.
Okay,
Because
thank you.
because let's face it, I mean, we can't even remember being born.
Right.
In this life, can we?
Right.
Our mothers or the photographs or whatever, for sure we were born. So it's only some people do. And, you can get these wonderful accounts and books written, by people who do near-death experience research and previous life research, that people do remember. What the people who remember, very interestingly, usually have quite dramatic deaths. So they were shot, and sometimes even there'll be a birthmark. So one of the factors of accepting somebody's account of their death is that there was nobody around to tell them what happened, and yet they are able to describe their environment correctly. They have a mark on them. And when they say, well, I was in a field and I was shot by a farmer in the head in my previous life, and then they find that on the skull there is a mark. So it was a violent death, there's a mark, and there's a memory of the environment. And those are the three factors actually that come into play when people are investigating whether somebody's account of a previous life is rational or not. Yeah. And people do, you know, children do. I was shot as an air pilot, and I died with my brother, and you know, there are these accounts. Not many of us do, but some people do. But in terms of remembering our births, that doesn't seem to happen.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Ondy. Yeah.
Yeah, almost like dramatic events might trigger a past life memory. Anyway, it's just stuff that I've read out of interest, you know, and heard about. Okay, any other questions or things you want to add? Barbara.
For me, karma is the only explanation that makes sense to me of why things happen. Because I don't believe in a God that causes things to happen. I don't believe in good or bad luck or things happen willy-nilly. Again, for me, it's the only logical explanation.
Yeah, you moved. Either we lost somebody, or we lost Kim. Oh no, there's Kim. Anyway, the page moved, so now you're in the other corner. And Barbara, you can take it off, and we can continue speaking, because I have to say that was very interesting for me. And if we want to talk about karma, you know, the fact that I don't know about you in your lives, that what brought you to Buddhism, it was karma. What brought you to perhaps Tibetan Buddhism? It was karma. What brought you to your particular teachers, your community? That was karma. So I think that's incredibly powerful to have that faith that what we do now, there will be a result in a future life, and we will come back to completing the path. Because for me personally, I spent 29 years wondering what the hell life was all about. And when I finally, you know, sat in front of a Lama, it was like, oh my God. And I was saying, he agrees with me, because all the ideas I'd had, he was telling me. And I was going, at last, I don't feel like I'm kind of mentally unstable, because there's somebody who is saying what I've always thought. And I'm sure, you know, you have your own stories too. So I think we can look at our own lives, at the karma, and understand that it's kind of come from past lives into this life. So we can see a connection. And maybe there are people we meet who we do have a strong connection with. Maybe that is true, that we do have a connection. I'm not saying, you know, about it necessarily being one of those situations where you have to watch your connection because it's going to create suffering. But definitely you meet people who You think, well, I met them for a reason. They might not be in your life all the time, but it took you somewhere, or it was important for a while. Yeah. So yeah, I agree. Rational sense to me. But you try telling some people about it who don't, they look at you as if you're completely nuts. I've done it many times. You don't believe that, do you? I said, well, do you believe in God that, causes these things to happen, or put the original chicken on there? To me, there just doesn't seem to be any logic at all. How about, is there anybody here in this little room who struggles with, oh, Maka, you've got a hand up. I can see that now. Little golden hand in the corner. Off you go. You speak.
Okay, and then we'll pick up where you left off there.
Yeah, good.
I kind of lost. I'll try to remember what I was going to ask you or talk about. Well, one thing I find it a little interesting that you're coming from a place and you're not being really like a missionary for karma with the collective, of our human family. However, you're bringing up the issue that, like we think this is like so important and will help us,
Yes.
to be better human beings and understand kind of why things happen, right?
Yes, yes.
And I'm a little curious, what's at the root of you having that concern that maybe more people would catch on to our sort of deeper understanding of karma? Can I ask you that question? Does that make sense?
Well, let me see if I understand. You're asking me why I think it's important that other people get karma, understand karma.
Right. Beyond just sort of like you're saying, like the pop star song
Yes.
version of karma. You seem
Yeah.
to feel that maybe the world would be a better place if more people,
Yes.
yes, understood the layers of karma the way the Buddhists are presenting it.
Yeah, I do believe that, because people, would just take any situation now, which is really difficult to talk about, which is why it's so difficult to talk about with people who don't have this. Ukraine and Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there you've got what is being presented, and I'm totally understanding that Ukraine is a victim of Russia's terrible actions, and specifically Putin. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And all these people are creating this karma. The soldiers and the people of Russia, maybe unwillingly, but they're being dragged into it. It is their karma that they're having to do it, that they are dragged into it. And I've got quite a few Russian students, actually, because I used to visit Moscow every year for about 7 years. So I've got quite a strong group of students there, and they are very, very open to the Dharma, and they have quite a few Tibetan teachers who go over there. So you've got this wonderful young population trying to rise up and change their country. And then you've got Putin and all this oppressive regime happening. And you look at that, and then you've got Ukraine a victim. And if you look at that, there's clearly the bad guy and the good guys. Yeah, the bad guys and the good guys. But if we had an understanding of karma, it wouldn't make us less compassionate and supportive to the Ukrainian people, but it would enable us to have more compassion and understanding for the Russian people. Yeah. So it wouldn't lessen because we'd have, yeah, not everyone thinks Ukraine is the victim. Well, yeah, Danny, that's another point, is that I'm talking generally. Certainly in this country, everybody's out to support the Ukrainians, which personally I think is great. But we have a very negative attitude towards Russians. In the media, they're showing all the terrible things that the Russian soldiers have done, etc., etc. So you get a painting, a black and a white, yeah? Now, if we take equanimity, you know, and then you add karma to the mix, then you're going, this is a big mess that has been created karmically. And if Putin and Russia, the oppressive regime, had an understanding of karma, they'd know that they were creating a big mess for themselves in the future. And Ukraine would also have an understanding that this was created in the past, so therefore it was a completion of some karma. A little bit how the Tibetans were when China invaded, yeah? How His Holiness, yeah, Danny says they do that in this country too, and even so, plenty of folks don't think Ukraine is a victim though. Yeah, 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 okay. So that's an attitude that is shared. So if everybody had an understanding of karma, then like the Tibetans, especially the ones who lived in Tibet and were Buddhists, a lot of young Tibetans aren't particularly following Buddhism now because they've had all the Western influence on them. But if you take those original Tibetans, His Holiness and other lamas would always say, well, we needed to come out and be more open with the world. And he understood why China had done it. Didn't make it right. But the Tibetans, especially the lamas, understood it to be their karma. And therefore that affects their attitude to the Chinese and also affects their karma for the future, because they're seeing life, not here, but vast. And we can see even in our lives, especially as you get older, I can see that all the things, the messes I made in my childhood or my youth or as a young woman, I'm managing to sort out now better because I have the understanding of karma. And if I didn't, I'd probably be as messy as I was when I came in. But the understanding of karma is helping me sort out difficult relationships, helping me sort out having compassion for those people who have harmed me. Yeah. So I don't know if that explains it, Maka, but that's the best I can do.
Okay. Yeah, well, it's certainly, if you're going to talk about Russia and Ukraine, you know, it's
massive.
in our, and it's in, you know, it's something that everybody's watching and
yes,
and can consider. Just the word karma itself, I find it interesting that the popular understanding of karma usually indicates negativity. That's you know, I'm gonna have this karma because I did something that was naughty, right?
Yes.
And that from my understanding of the Buddhist outlook is that karma can also be like positive results.
Sure, like your Tesla.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And us being here, this is great karma. Well, we have an incredible freedom. And I was discussing this with a friend yesterday, with some friends yesterday. We were looking at China and how oppressed everybody is at the moment there, how they haven't got freedom of speech, how blah, 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 blah. And also in Iran, how the women are being imprisoned and how they're struggling for their rights. And in that respect, our karma is great. You know, so yes, there's good karma, and we've all got it here together. We have freedom, a certain level of freedom. So that's wonderful. Yeah, go on, Maka. We've only got a few minutes, so
I know we could do a week-long retreat on this whole subject.
yes.
And maybe we will, but what was I going to say? I think I lost my thoughts.
That's okay. That's okay.
I'm on a road trip. I haven't slept good.
Are you saying that when I come over, you want to do karma? Special
Sure.
requests, yeah? Huh?
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I know what I was gonna ask you.
Yeah.
The definition of the word is karma. Is that a Sanskrit word? Like, how does it break down?
Oh,
Like,
now you're asking me, and I can't tell you off the top of my head. Anybody else? No? Karma. Is it? It must be karma. It's action. It actually translates to
action. K-A-M-M-A in our alliteration.
Whoa, who
it
is
is-
that?
It's Danny. It is from Sanskrit. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Karma,
Danny.
Action.
Yeah, action. It's action.
K-A-M-M-A. Yeah, you were right.
Thank you, Danny.
Action. Okay. And so sometimes we lose the meaning in translation too, right?
Yes.
But it's good to have something to contemplate as far as
Yes.
the real meaning.
Yes, exactly. And to also take care when you discuss it with other people who don't have the depth of understanding of what karma is.
Oh, for sure.
It really does create a lot of heat.
And I think your example of the football coach or whatever, just kind of like using that word in the public context.
Oh,
that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyways, good. Thanks for the class. It's been good.
He was slaughtered, poor man.
Well, yeah. Gotta be careful what we say around who.
Yeah, exactly.
Barbara wants to say something.
Yeah, Barbara. Let's finish with you, Barbara, because it's 6 o'clock. Well, it's whatever it is with you. It's 6 o'clock for me.
Okay, I was just going to say that for me, karma takes away victimhood. There's no victim.
That's right.
That's good.
Yeah.
And that really is empowering.
Yes. Perfect. I think we should finish on that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, so really interesting discussion. We've got 2 more sessions, I believe. And it was lovely to meet you, Zela. Thank you for stepping in. I've got 2 chat ones. Have we? Oh no, we've done that, haven't we? Oh yeah, that was Danny's. No, that's fine. Okay. Okay, so I thank you very much for coming. Enjoy your lovely karma today. And even, in fact, I've had this discussion with somebody that we should never say good or bad karma, just karma. Because when we experience good karma, we don't know whether that's the end of that. And when we experience bad karma, it's giving us an opportunity to sort it out. So it's just karma. Enjoy. Have a lovely day. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.